What's a high school dropout doing at a big company? You're out of place, so leave immediately. When I went to the client's company on the day of the negotiation, John, a classmate from middle school, mocked me. In middle school, I indeed led a life that people called the bottom, and I entered society without going to high school. Is being a high school dropout such a bad thing? Trying to suppress my rising anger, I clenched my fists. It does seem like I'm out of place. Excuse me. With that, I quietly left the scene. On the way back to the office, I called my secretary, Sean, on my phone. Cancel the ongoing negotiation. Pull everyone out. Are you serious? That's a $6 million deal. Yes, I'm serious. We'll contract with the other company, Smith Inc. In addition to the current negotiation partner, York Corp., where John worked, there was another candidate company. And I was the one entrusted with the discretion of which company to make a deal with. My name is Kenneth Ford. I am 42 years old, working for a major air conditioning equipment company called Curie Corp. I was having busy days, close to finalizing a new contract. I was eager to successfully conclude this negotiation and disband the team soon. Working with people who don't get along is quite challenging. It requires unnecessary efforts, and disagreements often hinder progress. Regarding this contract, it shouldn't inherently be a difficult issue. The complication arises from the presence of Jack, the sales director. Jack, also 42, has been the sales director since last year. We have worked on the same team several times since we were young, but we always ended up in conflict and never finished a job on good terms. Jack has had a stellar career, walking the elite path since joining the company. He graduated from a prestigious university in New York and joined Curie Corp with much fanfare. He was on a smooth path to promotion until I appeared and drastically changed the situation. We were considered good rivals within the company because we were the same age. But this was not pleasing to Jack, who has high pride. I had worked at a subsidiary for a long time and was brought to Curie Corp due to my achievements. Jack looked down on me completely because of that. However, since I started working at the same company, Jack has been experiencing displeasures. To begin with, Jack is not popular with women at all. Since his 30s, his hair has been receding at the crown, and his belly protrudes, likely due to frequent drinking at business receptions. This appearance made him highly unpopular with the female employees. On the other hand, I am 182 centimeters tall and have a well-toned body from regular gym workouts. Jack was always compared to me in terms of appearance, which fueled his intense rivalry. He even found out which gym I attended and promptly signed up. However, not having exercised for years, he rarely went despite signing up. Therefore, he saw no results, and even walking a bit made him sweat profusely and breathe heavily. Due to this, he had no relationships with women and remained single at 42. Meanwhile, I got married at 30, have no children, but live happily with my beautiful wife. This time, I was the team leader working towards securing the contract, but I was troubled by significant issues with the negotiation partner. The other source of my headache was a man named John. John and I were classmates in both elementary and middle school, and I had no good memories of him. Having taken different paths, I thought I would never see him again, but life is full of surprises. In middle school, we were rivals, always competing for the top spot in exams. Our strong desire not to lose drove us to study hard. I think it was back then that I learned the value of hard work. If those days shaped who I am now, maybe they weren't so bad. But thinking that way only now, those days were tough at the time. I wanted to lead a peaceful middle school life, but John kept picking fights with me. From John's perspective, he should have been number one all along, but my presence messed up his plans. He must hold a grudge against me. John received a rigorous education before entering kindergarten. His mother, in particular, was very passionate about his education and tried to get him into a prestigious private kindergarten. However, John failed miserably in the kindergarten's entrance exam. In the middle of a family interview, he couldn't hold his urge to go to the bathroom. Even now, his mother complains bitterly to the neighbors about John's failure. With a mother who still gossips about a childhood mistake, could a child grow up honestly? He attended a public kindergarten and took the entrance exam for a prestigious private elementary school, but failed again. By the time he was in middle school, his mother had stopped pushing him to get into a prestigious middle school. As a result, John felt liberated, and his grades improved rapidly. If it weren't for me, he would have been the undisputed top student in his grade. Even when he became number one, people would ask, "What happened to the other guy this time?" To John, I was nothing but a nuisance. After graduating from middle school, we went our separate ways, and I can't express how relieved we both were. John would never have imagined crossing paths with me again in his 40s. This negotiation was extremely important for our company, so I, as the division head and team leader, was dispatched. Thinking about meeting John again at this age made me feel heavy-hearted. However, maybe John had learned to consider others' feelings after being out in society. If so, perhaps we could overcome our long-standing grudges and become friends. But my hopes were merely illusions. We were probably as incompatible as the S and N poles of a magnet. John worked for York Corp, a well-known building management company. It was impressive how smoothly he had climbed the corporate ladder. When our team from Curie Corp arrived at York Corp's headquarters and were guided to the meeting room, there was John, stylishly groomed and wearing an expensive-looking suit. John immediately recognized me. From the moment we exchanged business cards, he treated me with disrespect. As the leader of this negotiation, he introduced the York Corp members but avoided eye contact with me. The York Corp employees looked puzzled, unsure of how to interact with me. Then suddenly, John addressed me. "Why are you here? Are you here just to handle the machines?" Well, something like that. I pretended to be just a technician to avoid angering John and didn't mention that I was the team leader. Then John publicly insulted me in front of everyone participating in the negotiation. "What does a high school dropout want at a big company? You're out of place, so leave immediately." In middle school, except for my good grades, I indeed led a life that people called the bottom and entered society without going to high school. But is being a high school dropout such a bad thing? Trying to suppress my rising anger, I clenched my fists. It does seem like I'm out of place. "Excuse me." With that, I quietly left the scene. On the way back to the office, I called my secretary, Sean, on my phone. "Cancel the ongoing negotiation. Pull everyone out. Are you serious? That's a $6 million deal." "Yes, I'm serious. We'll contract with the other company, Smith Inc. In addition to York Corp, where John worked, there was another candidate company, and I was the one entrusted with the discretion of which company to make a deal with." After ending the call, I put my phone in my breast pocket and gazed out the car window. Nowadays, I have a personal driver, so I can sit in the spacious back seat of a luxury car and spend my travel time in a relaxed state. However, I had faced many struggles to get to this point. Since I was old enough to remember, I didn't have a father, and I was raised by my mother and grandmother. According to my grandmother, my father left us for another woman. Since then, my mother worked hard outside, and my grandmother took care of the house and looked after me. While I got used to a fatherless household, I never got used to being poor. Moreover, once I started school, the disparity in wealth became evident through comparing belongings. John's family was wealthy, and everything he owned was high-end. As for me, I used hand-me-downs from neighbors. Though my grades were good and I was often praised for them, outside of that, I was just a poor kid compared to others, which made me feel miserable. When I entered middle school, it marked the start of a 3-year countdown to an unavoidable fate of entering society as a middle school graduate. It was far from being a fun 3 years. After graduating middle school with no change in circumstances, I went a completely different path from John. All through the connection of my homeroom teacher, I joined a subsidiary of Curie Corp. The president of that subsidiary had also faced hardships and, like me, started the company after graduating middle school. Seeing this president gave me hope. The president also took an interest in me and proposed that I attend evening school to continue my studies while working. Of course, understanding from the other employees was necessary, but they were all very supportive, covering my night shifts. Thanks to them, I could attend classes without missing a single one. While others dropped out one after another, I graduated from evening high school with perfect attendance and enrolled in an evening university. I studied architecture at university, which is very useful in my current job. Thus, my title changed from middle school graduate to university graduate. It was all thanks to the cooperation of the employees who worked with me. I vowed to work hard at this company for the rest of my life and repay the kindness I had received. After various events, I transferred to the parent company, Kiri Corp, when the president retired. I now hold the position of the division head overseeing the business department at Kiri Corp's headquarters. I was set to be promoted to an executive position next year. Using my authority as division head, I decided to switch the partner company from York Corp to Smith Inc. The other employees returned from York Corp's headquarters, bewildered. "Kenneth, what's going on? We've worked so hard to get this far, and now you're canceling the deal at the last minute? Sorry for the sudden change." The person in charge over there didn't like the idea of me leading the negotiation. "I didn't want it to affect your work later. By the way, their sales director said something arrogant after seeing you, Kenneth. He spoke to Jack after you left. I knew Jack had been working hard to finalize the contract with York Corp for this negotiation. I would have to explain later that this decision wasn't out of spite for Jack. If we continued with York Corp, the chances of encountering John would increase significantly. Not only would it be uncomfortable for me, but it could also cause problems for our employees. If they look down on me, the executive director, they will also treat the other employees as if they are inferior. Knowing John's character since childhood, I could predict his future actions easily. I needed to protect the employees who worked hard alongside me. In fact, the employees who heard John's insults were all furious. That guy, John, called Kenneth a bottom-tier middle school graduate. He has worked harder than anyone, contributing to the company while earning a university degree. He's a model employee. I interacted with John twice during this negotiation, and he was awful. Right after exchanging business cards, he asked about my university. When he realized my rank was lower, he immediately looked down on me. In contrast, the sales director at Smith Inc. is fantastic. I've been negotiating with Smith Inc., and he's someone you'd want to work with. Even when York Corp was chosen, he didn't show any resentment. No one criticized my decision to change partners at the last minute. The only one possibly grumbling was Jack, who was still talking with John at York Corp's headquarters. While discussing this in the department, Sean entered. "John from York Corp is here. Will you see him?" I had no time to hesitate. John pushed his way in behind Sean immediately. John, looking very flustered, rushed over to me and apologized deeply. "I'm very sorry. I never imagined you were the one responsible for this negotiation." I heard the story from Jack. Graduating from university while working hard is truly admirable. You only knew me as a middle school graduate, so it can't be helped. But regardless of whether I am the partner or not, those remarks were offensive. I can't work with someone who places such importance on academic background. When I firmly refused, John trembled with rage, looking up at me with pleading eyes. We were about the same height in middle school, but shortly after that, I grew significantly taller. Now, John had to look up at me. How did John feel about the person he once looked down on now being taller and higher in social status? Please don't say that. This contract is critical for our company. I was entrusted with this responsibility, and if it ends like this, I won't know what to tell my superiors. That's not my concern. You're not happy to see me again, are you? It's better for both of us not to be involved with each other. Please reconsider." The previously arrogant John now looked pale and repeatedly apologized. He surely didn't want to apologize to someone like me. This is the tragedy of being a corporate worker. Now, I was completely on the winning side. Finally, John prostrated himself at my feet, begging for forgiveness. I realize that I have made you uncomfortable since middle school. If this contract falls through, it will be a disaster for me. I apologize for everything, including the past, so please forgive me. As John apologized, Sean appeared, announcing, "The representatives from Smith Inc. are here." I left John groveling and went to meet the team from Smith Inc. John lingered for a while, unable to give up, but eventually accepted defeat and left. Thanks to the efforts of the person who had been handling the negotiations up to that point, the contract with Smith Inc. was finalized smoothly. With this new contract, Jack, who had been negotiating with York Corp., was left isolated. Jack was furious with my decision. "We worked so hard to get this far, and now you cancel at the last minute. What was all my effort for?" "I'm truly sorry about that. This wasn't done out of spite. You know my history with John, but this decision wasn't based on past grudges. I genuinely felt sorry for Jack, who had worked hard on the deal. While it was impossible to continue working with John, Jack and I were colleagues. I wanted to avoid any further conflicts and maintain a peaceful working relationship. I sincerely apologized to Jack. Jack seemed to misinterpret my humble gesture. Suddenly, he straightened up arrogantly, pointing his finger at me. "Is that your idea of an apology? If you really want to apologize, get on your knees." The nearby employees looked at us in shock. Jack was the sales director, my subordinate. Forgetting his place and demanding excessive apologies from me was outrageous. At that moment, I heard the sound of high heels in the hallway. Recognizing the familiar sound, I looked up. I saw my wife, Emma, entering the room. Usually, she would greet me with a sweet smile, but it seemed she had overheard the exchange between Jack and me in the hallway. She entered the room with an angry expression and approached Jack. Jack, startled by Emma's approach, took a step back. Emma stood beside me, glaring at Jack. "What do you think you're doing making Kenneth knees? You're just the sales director." Emma was still deeply in love with me, and we had a wonderful relationship. Raised as the only daughter of our current president, Mr. Tom, Emma had never experienced financial hardship. She studied abroad in Germany during high school and attended a prestigious women's university in the U.S. After graduating, she worked in an office in the city, but returned home at Tom's request. Tom intended for Emma to marry a man holding an important position in the company. However, Emma was independent and wanted to live her life on her own terms. While she respected her father's opinion, she wanted to choose her own partner. Emma first dated Jack when they were both in their 20s. Back then, Jack didn't have the protruding belly or the bald head. I once jokingly asked Emma, "What did you see in Jack?" Back then, the fact that he wasn't a handsome guy made me feel secure. I didn't have to worry about anyone stealing him. But over time, I started hearing bad things about him at work, and my feelings for him cooled down. As they continued dating, Emma began to feel uncomfortable with Jack's arrogant attitude and unfounded confidence. Eventually, their relationship was plagued by constant arguments, and they drifted apart. At that time, Emma happened to visit the headquarters and instantly fell for me when she saw me walking down the hallway. She quickly started gathering information about me, and upon hearing that I was competent and had a good personality, she felt reassured and approached me. When Emma first invited me to lunch, I was so surprised that I wondered if it was some kind of prank. We just had a casual conversation, but Emma became enamored with my character. Thus, Emma formally ended things with Jack and began dating me. With Emma leading the way, our relationship progressed, and we got married when I turned 30. Emma, who genuinely respected and loved me, was truly my destiny's goddess. After marrying Emma, I quickly surpassed Jack in the company hierarchy. From Jack's perspective, he might have felt that I took Emma and the path to success and a happy marriage from him. Coincidentally, the successive misfortunes of Jack and John, both deeply connected to me, began to draw public attention. The contrast between their decline and my steadily rising career became increasingly noticeable. Amidst this, a major scandal erupted between the two. John had been bribing sales director Jack in a desperate attempt to secure a contract with Curie Corp. Both Curie and York Corp began thorough investigations. Eventually, investigators from both companies uncovered the corrupt relationship between Jack and John. It was discovered that they frequented a hidden bar together and leaked confidential information about their respective companies. John's misconduct was uncovered first. He had been embezzling company funds and was promptly fired after the investigation concluded. Jack, who was ordered a home confinement, was found to have used the bribe money on an affair. Though Jack was single, his affair was with a subordinate's wife from the sales department. The subordinate eventually divorced his wife and kicked her out. The wife tried to move in with Jack, but he refused, causing her to lash out. She threatened to reveal all the dirt she knew about Jack, creating another big scandal. Claiming that Jack was responsible for ruining her marriage, she even considered taking legal action. At this point, the company couldn't protect Jack any longer, and he was forced to take early retirement. My father-in-law, President Tom, was deeply shocked by Jack's betrayal. This is because he had once seriously considered Jack as a potential son-in-law. Now, he was relieved he hadn't chosen Jack for his daughter. With Jack's misdeeds revealed, my standing with Tom improved significantly. I'm so glad I entrusted my daughter to you, Kenneth. Jack had a stellar academic background and wasn't a bad salesperson, but he completely fooled me. All I could do was give a wry smile. In middle school, I was always compared to John, and as a working adult, I was compared to Jack. Neither comparison was pleasant, but in the end, I emerged victorious. I didn't let the comparisons drive me to competitiveness or resentment, which probably led to the good outcomes. Jack, seeking to be repaid for his past favors, visited John's house. However, John had also been fired and couldn't possibly take care of Jack. In the end, John's wife called the police, claiming Jack had forced his way into their home, making it a police matter. The police officers who heard the story admonished Jack, who left quietly that day, but John's wife, fearing Jack would return, moved her family to a weekly rental apartment. This led to a natural state of separation. With the new fiscal year, my position also changed. I was promoted from the division head to executive director. Though the responsibility was immense, I was highly motivated. My promotion as someone who had worked his way up from humble beginnings significantly boosted employee morale. I aimed to be an executive director who always considered the feelings of my subordinates and acted decisively. Amid the busy days, I couldn't help but wonder about the fates of John and Jack. Other employees were curious too, and rumors about the two continued to circulate. First, John had been unable to find a new job since being fired from York Corp. John had a wife and children, but they left him around the same time he lost his job. John wishes to repair the relationship, while his wife wants a divorce. Every day, he visits his wife's place, pleading for her to come back, but their divorce seems imminent. His loneliness has led to increased drinking, and he has been seen wandering the neighborhood in a drunken state. Jack's situation also turned out to be disastrous. Fortunately or unfortunately, being single, he had no wife or children to leave him. However, his affair partner had clearly ended their relationship. For the woman he had an affair with, staying with her current husband meant financial stability, but running to the jobless Jack was a significant risk. Her husband, to ensure she wouldn't meet Jack physically, asked the company to transfer him to a different location. She seems willing to follow her husband, aiming to mend their relationship. Now alone again, Jack struggles to find another job. Having been single for so long, Jack had a considerable amount of savings, which he decided to invest. He poured his money into high-risk investments and ended up losing it all. He used up all his savings meant for future living expenses. Jack's future looks exceedingly bleak. 1 year has passed since I became an executive director. The good relationship between Emma and me remains unchanged. We weren't blessed with children, but we always cherished our life together as a couple. To keep the excitement of being lovers, we dined alone at a fancy restaurant once a week. One evening, while dining at a restaurant with a view of the night cityscape, Emma made a surprising confession. She told me she was pregnant with twins. Although childbirth at 38 is worrisome, Emma is determined to give birth to the twins safely. I plan to fully support her during childbirth and the subsequent childcare. Savoring the joy of our growing family, we continue to cherish each day.